Okay, we are at Blandford Cemetery in Petersburg, Virginia. And Blandford Cemetery, I believe,
Did you have a wife?
was here at the earliest grave site is marked as 1702. There's a church on the property that is dated at 1735, and the cemetery is huge, and this is at Petersburg, Virginia, and it's huge. The place is big, and we are in the section where many Confederate soldiers died during the siege of Petersburg. Right now I'm here with Tamara Eastman and Chai Gallahan and my son Ethan, and my son is doing an EVP session behind me, so I'm going to go for a little bit of a walk and see if I can get anything captured on my camcorder. If you're here with us, make your presence known. Say hello. Tell me who you are. Are you a male? And those are the people that invited me to the special private event. Tamara, Chai, and an acquaintance of theirs. If I'm not mistaken, I believe there's 30,000 Confederate soldiers buried somewhere on this land that died during the siege of Petersburg. If you are one of those soldiers, let me know. Can you tell me how old you are? They said that one of the groundskeepers saw Confederate soldiers walking around the tree line. So Tamara, tell me about this this site right here.
Okay, this is the Kebon family. It is a crypt that goes down in the ground in here, and there are different compartments in here that put all the family members in. One of the family members is Mrs. Ann Kebon, and she died in childbirth, and she and her infant are both buried in here in one of the coffins. Two of the children, because they had a large family, but they were twins. Their names were William and Walter, and both of them went to Virginia Military Institute. One of the kids got kicked out of school. Now, I didn't say it was permanent. He did get expelled for a while for going AWOL. He went on a trip without permission, and the records actually show that he got thrown out. But they both were in Company B here in Petersburg, and they actually fought here in Petersburg. Walter was killed in battle, and William had half his face blown off by gunshot and survived it. Now I want you to picture in those days having half your face blown off, that kind of an injury, and you live and what kind of agonizing pain that you're going to be in. The only treatment that they had for that was to try to keep cleaning the wound and giving him morphine for the pain. Obviously, he had to get out of the military over it. He went into hiding because his face was like Phantom of the Opera, basically. He was ashamed of how his face looked and kept half his face covered. Ended up putting a bullet to his head one day in 1889 and committed suicide. A lot of sad stories happen in this graveyard. A lot of children are buried in here. A little boy who died from meningitis, one of their younger brothers. So many kids and babies and suicides are in this particular grave. Now, for some reason, I remember as a child, and Chai recalls it also, that people kept being drawn to this particular tomb. And teenagers would come here and mess around. And one of the stories was that if you went up and knocked on the door, something would come up the steps and knock back.
All right, so I understand you had an experience here?
Oh, yes. We had just seen a movie at the Crater 8 Cinema, and my friend Steve and I and a couple of our friends were driving past Blandford Cemetery, and we thought we'd come and look for Keevan's tomb. That's how we pronounced it back then, but it's Kavan, I suppose. But so we came in. They don't close the gates at night, and we didn't realize that it was you weren't supposed to come here after nightfall. But we're driving through the cemetery looking for Keevan's tomb, can't find it. The next thing we know, police lights from 2 different squad cars turn on, and we didn't see those guys approach from anywhere. It's like they just appeared, and it was a little tense at first. They checked our IDs and everything and had told us that some people were coming in and vandalizing the tombstones and pushing them over, and so it was tense. And one of our friends, he broke the ice by saying, "Where's Keevan?" And then the cops sort of lightened up and they smiled and they said, "Hey, we'll show you where Keevan's tomb is." And they took us around through the cemetery and drove us right to here, and then showed us Keevan's tomb. And then he asked us, he says, "Do you want to knock on the door?" And so he went down there and knocked on the door with his flashlight, and nothing happened. And we were disappointed, because we wanted to see something or hear something. And we said, well, we're really disappointed because we were hoping to see some ghosts out here. And then what he does, the cop, he takes his flashlight and he sticks it under his face and he says, "How do you know we're not dead cops?" And we said, "Okay, thanks, officer. We've had enough. We appreciate the tour," and went on our way. So
That's kind of cool. All right, we're going to do an EVP session here at the Kavan site. And I believe it's Walter and William.
They're 2 of the people in there.
Okay. So we're going to attempt a communication by doing an EVP session. So if there's someone here with us, I'd appreciate it if you talk to us this evening. Mr. Kavan, William, and Walter, we're here to talk to you. From what I understand, you've had your family's had a rough life. Can you tell me what happened, how you died? I understand that there's something happened with one of the individuals' faces. Can you tell me what happened? I understand it was pretty dramatic. I understand that you were in a lot of pain. Is that true? So if I knock on your door, will you not back? Let us know you're here. You do know if it starts banging, I'm running, right?
Stand right here. I want to talk to him.
you'd be the only one left.
Well, I don't want anybody to see what happens what I do to my shorts.
That would be funny.
Mr. Kavan, William or Walter, how many family members are buried here with you?
So they're not talking.
right, well, we're going to continue walking around the cemetery here.
This tomb is from 1848.
In fact, if you could, Tim, you could light rays on the side of his face. Yeah, perfect.
Okay.
Neon ray.
Who said that? You heard it. Lindsay said he heard somebody say, "We want to pet the little dog." On the night of July 16th, 1815, a fire broke out in what is now Old Town Petersburg. It burned down 3/4 of the city by the time the fire ended that night. All around this spot right here where you see all this empty space, that is not empty space. There used to be tombstones here. The tombstones have since fallen away, but there's about a dozen people buried here who were killed that night. These are people who died when their homes collapsed. They died in explosions. Some of the explosions were being set intentionally, trying to stop the fire, and some of them were accidental. This is the grave of Mr. Samuel Myers. Now, Mr. Myers was born in Baltimore, and he came here to Petersburg and ran a shipping company on Old Street in Petersburg. He married a local woman. He had several children, and he actually owned several slaves, in fact, too. Some of them actually worked in his business and some worked in his home, but he freed several of his slaves. At least a dozen of them he set free, including some women and their children. So he was said to be a pretty compassionate man. And on the night of the fire, he ran into the newspaper office, which was called the Petersburg Intelligencer. Today there is a fountain standing at the spot on the corner of Old and Sycamore where the Petersburg Intelligencer building used to be. And he was inside the building trying to help pull some people out when the building went up like a bomb. I want you to imagine some of the printing chemicals that were in there. And what was left of him was buried here because he was blown apart. He and several other men were killed instantly. His is the only stone that is still standing, and as you can see, it's had to be held together by these clamps because they're so old that they literally started to disintegrate. And that's what happened to all the ones that were back here. They just literally fell apart.
Okay, so we're back over here in the part of the cemetery where all the soldiers are buried, and also where the siege of Petersburg took place. What we're gonna try to do is try to entice whoever's here by using sounds of battle for a little bit before we start doing our EVP session.
Right here.
All right, Tamara, you said you, as soon as we got down here, you were experiencing something?
Yeah, I felt like something hit me in my gut chest area. I felt like it hit me hard a couple of times, knocked the wind out of me. And then it felt like it was grabbing the back of my neck. His camera started acting up right at the same time. He took a picture of the ground, and he has a great big picture of a hole in the ground, and then his camera shut off. Right at the same time we were feeling this. And it's right after I had been messing around and yelling, "There's Yankees coming." And, you know, I was just kind of screwing around, but I wonder if I may have stirred something up. Because I'm feeling shaky right now.
Okay.
And I'm frozen. All of a sudden, I'm really, really cold, and it's not that cold out here. And I feel like it's 20 degrees out now, and it just hit me all of a sudden where I'm freezing.
Okay, well, my camcorder turned off by itself, even though it's got a half a battery left. But before it went off, we were hearing some noise. I don't know if you're able to see in these bushes over here that surrounded the tree. We heard the leaves rustling around, and then we heard branches cracking like somebody's walking on branches. And right then is when the camcorder turned off by itself. So what do you think, Ethan? Ghost, deer, aliens, Bigfoot?
Bigfoot.